Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the first Party Data Marketing Summit. I'm Benoît, Bouteille, VP of Customer Experience at Tinyclues. And before jumping into the topic and welcoming our guests today, I just want to go over some housekeeping topics. So yes, the session is recorded, so it will be available on demand after the summit. And you will see, if you are not yet used to Zoom webinars, you will see the Q&A button at the bottom of the panel. So don't hesitate to ask your question, type them. I will see them. I will ask our guest, Jan, the question if we have time during the presentation. And if not, we'll cover that at the end. So don't hesitate to ask the question. We'll do our best to cover all of them. And now, let's jump to the topic. I'm really thrilled to welcome Jan, chairman of the DDMA, the Data-Driven Marketing Association. And Jan today will present and explain, go over the topic, the difficult topic of building hands-on first-party data strategy. That's a topic for everyone. I think we have a lot of discussion with our clients. Everywhere we hear about first-party data, zero-party data, how to use it. The cookieless world is coming soon. The dates are moving, so depending on the actors and the players using them. But that's definitely a topic to address. So this is my great pleasure to have you, Jan, with us today. I will let you introduce you and introduce the DDMA.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Benoît. Let me share the screen. Here we are. Yeah. So, well, thanks again. Yeah, as Benoît already said, it's a very actual topic, first-party data, because of many reasons. But it's difficult, to find out where should you start. It's complex. There are also a lot of changes upcoming. So what should you do? How can you stay flexible? And the Data-Driven Marketing Association and also the company that I'm in the management team, we do a lot of research and apply practical ways to handle all these challenges. And it's actually quite fun to address these challenges, because once you start designing it and developing it, you see what you can do with your zero and first-party data, and that of course that there will be no third-party cookies anymore shortly. That's, of course, it's not nice, but it's not really a problem. If you manage it correctly, it's also an opportunity, especially if you do it properly. So I would like to share with you some practical guidelines and examples, including some research about this topic. So the Data-Driven Marketing Association, it's a marketing association based in the Netherlands, and we have over 360 advertisers like banks, NGOs, retailers, publishers, but also tech companies like Google, Telium, who are paying members. And our three pillars are what can be done with data-driven marketing. So that means what's the status on customer level, advertising level, and at legal level. We organize a lot of events, roundtables, awards, like the Dutch Customer Data Award, podcasts, blogs and vlogs, etc. That's to further professionalize the sector. Another important pillar is what is allowed to be done. So there's a lot happening when it comes to GDPR and all acts on European level that are already in place or will be in place. So we have like 7 legal councils who work for our members and who also are in contact at European level and at the Dutch authority level, so the Dutch legislator, about legislation. And the third pillar, not to forget, is data ethics. And data ethics is maybe what can be done doesn't, or is allowed to be done, doesn't necessarily fit with your company. For instance, in the way you apply some type of algorithms. So what type of data management and decisions and the way you process and collect data fits with your company. So that's also an interesting topic to discuss. So next to my role at the DDMA, I'm also part of the management team of Crystalloids. And what we do, we are designing data strategies, solution architectures to create a central customer view, to apply machine learning, to deliver data products. And of course, we monitor all the solutions. And basically, we design, build, and monitor composable customer data platforms on Google Cloud Platform. So that's our core business, and we do that, for instance, for Tommy Hilfiger, Rituals Cosmetics, cryptocurrency companies, etc. Very nice. So we are hyper-focused on developing CDPs. And first-party data in CDPs is a very important topic. So then back to DDMA. So as I said, we regularly do market investigations about CRM, but also about changing legislation, etc. And what quite shocked us, we recently finished that research at the end of June, and that questionnaire was about how prepared are you for the cookieless era, for the sunset of these cookies. And we thought that most of the companies, the bigger companies, would really be on top of that. And what is a shock? A lot are not. And if we dive into a bit more in detail, so no action at all is 45% of 160 respondents. Otherwise, others take actions on web analytics, marketing performance, but still it is not a lot. And they don't. So 1 in 4 only has a first-party data strategy. Maybe they don't call it a first-party data strategy, and they have some other type of strategy or tactics. But at least that's what they say. And they say what's hindering them is that they don't have the right people. They see that as a challenge. Of course, in these times, having these skilled people can be a challenge. And also, if you don't have the knowledge of tooling. On the other hand, that shouldn't hinder you, because you can also hire these skills in the market. Or so if they would really see this as a challenge, they would make it work. They would do it. But this is quite a shocker. I'm not sure about market research in other countries, so I don't know. But in the Netherlands so far, this is a shock. And this is especially a shock because the DDMA organizes lots of events, etc., about this topic, with cases, or legal counsels are presenting. We have white papers. So we do everything to prepare the market. And still, a lot, they are not completely prepared. So that's also why the subject of today is very, very actual. What I will be covering is why you need a data strategy, the components of a customer data platform, about marketing technology components, the role of data in the marketing technology stack. And what I will be detailing about is only 3 components of the data strategy. One is complying with data regulations and how to get customer consent, how to define a use case and build the architecture, and also very important, the ability to execute. Because if you have a lot of data products and decisions ready, but if you can't execute on it, or you can't monitor what's happening, then then it doesn't work. So it's a combination, as always, people, process, and technology. And the process ability to execute is important. Applying ops, that means operations. Yeah, so why do we need a data strategy? The customer is on your website, on an app, a CRM, call center, in a store, and maybe the customer experience in that channel is quite high, for instance, with 85, 90%, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the overall satisfaction is high. Because if you don't integrate these channels, then the customer experience is poor, and this is very difficult. So, but data is connecting all these dots, but not only data, the integrations and the decisions and the content as well. The martech CDP, if you ask us, this supplies and needs data. So all these systems provide data and they need data. And that all starts with when a customer lands on your app, on your website, by asking for consent. So you need to manage that consent and ask for the value exchange. And that will be, I will dive into that later. So first you need consent based on transparency. And then you have you collect the first and the zero party data. And that's very important. If you would share data with a company in a privacy safe way, that's called second party data. And third party data is not only the third party cookies, that can also be like social demographic data, could be weather data, Google search trends, and that's all third party data. But third party data is not really in scope today. Today is in scope the zero and the first party data. So if then a customer lands on your website, then and until they have identified themselves, they are anonymous. And if they have identified themselves by creating an email address, making a purchase or an account, they are identified. And then this total data onboarding is being managed like in an enterprise data layer, so where you link all these identities. And if you work in several regions all over the world, that identity management can be different, also because legislation is different. And do you need, for instance, like an active opt-in or as an opt-out, also possible. So your system should be flexible in applying that. And of course, the tag management, what content do you have, and the metadata. And metadata is a description of your actual data so that people can know what the definitions of the data are and that people can find the data. So this is more, the first bits are more like the combination of front end where the customer lands and the back end. And then as a result of these data points, you try to create a rich customer view, as rich as possible. Well, a 360 customer view is the holy grail. That's almost not possible. But what we say, if you have like a 300% customer view, in most cases, then you already, then you already have accomplished a lot. And so then you have demographics, actual behavior, explicit interest. When a customer says, "Okay, I'm interested in this or that," then you might have the marketing personas derived from the data, or that you make as a marketing department, and of course the customer intent. And this is all being managed by Plan, Do, Check, Act, which is obligatory because of GDPR. And for instance, if you have ISO certifications, that's all about Plan, Do, Check, Act, so that you are in control of what you are doing. So then you have this customer view. And if you have a customer view, then you could apply all kinds of modeling. And that can be customer lifetime, predicted customer lifetime modeling, lookalike modeling, for instance, of your best customers, that you find them in the advertising platforms. Of course, propensity to buy modeling, who of my customer segments are most willing, most prepared to buy certain products or product categories, and that you can act upon that. So all kinds of modeling, but you can only apply modeling in a proper way if the total set of activities that I covered before, if that's in order. So the decisions are being made here, and then you can share these decisions through all types of channels and means like marketing, automation, website, etc. But what's also needed is, for instance, workflow orchestration. And with workflow orchestration, I mean there are data coming in, for instance, from 20 or 30 applications and systems, and they all have different data formats and different speeds and different sequences how to transform and ingest that data. So that has to be orchestrated. Then you apply data governance. That means that you are security and privacy compliant, and that you check on the data quality and the cost of the total platform. Then you have like all types of applications and systems, and that you apply what are the cost of the total data flows and other systems. Then you can apply BI and performance management. So if you ask me, this is the total scoping of the presentation of today, and this is a way to look at marketing technology. So the function of marketing technology without labels like ClickView, Look, or whatever. This is just a way you can look at it. And a CDP is never a single product or a single suite. That's my honest opinion. It's always a combination of technologies and processes that have to be in place as a part of marketing technology stack. And for instance, this is the high-level architecture of PVH, Tommy and Calvin Klein at EMEA level for marketing activation. And then you see they have several sources on the left side, including a CRM and an ERP system and some external data. And that data is being managed in a public cloud. And it's always more than just about data. It's also about who has access to what. So identity and access management, monitoring on threats, etc. Then there's the data processing. As I said, the workflows that should be managed with all the data that's coming in and the transformation. Then you apply like a data lake functionality storage so that you always can go back in time to apply modeling, for instance. And then for the real-time decisions to share that to the channels, you can use certain. This is an example of Google Cloud Firestore, and for analytics, there's platform AI and other types of AI that can be applied. And all these decisions, the total result is being shared with all types of systems, and of course the measurement. So this is a technical, like a high-level architecture of a composable marketing stack. But then back to the data strategy. And there are many elements involved, many ways you can look at it. This is one way, and I've chosen today to show you what's the organizational track and the technical track, and that set up between 3 different levels of maturity. Of course, I won't be sharing all these elements with you today. That's impossible, and you will get all the sheets afterwards. But these are the most important topics that you can cover within a data strategy also depending on where you are in maturity. So what I will be covering today is the compliance with data regulation and consent, how to select use cases and how to develop these with minimal risk in a POC, for instance, and the ability to execute, so operational excellence within marketing and technology, and also when you work with engineering teams. Yeah, and then the compliance. So if you don't get customer consent, at least if you're in Europe, you're out of business, because then you can't do anything. The entire marketing technology landscape and elements that I just shared, if you would have like consent of about 15% of your total traffic, yeah, then you really have a problem. I'm saying you're out of business, and maybe you're not, but at least you have a big problem. So it all starts with getting customer consent, and a customer who's privacy aware, they only share their data with you if they trust you and if they know what they will get in return, and that's what we call the value exchange. So if, like in the past, you collect all types of data from the customer, but the customer doesn't get value in product recommendations, for instance, but also if you are in contact with them. So you share all this in this nice cartoon. And if you then only send a happy birthday emailing or an email or spamming about Black Friday, that's not what the customer is waiting for. So it's a value exchange. And how can you do that? You can do that by putting the customer first. So customers are more willing to share their information if you show that you are responsible with their data and that it delivers value. How can it be done? Start with communicating a clear value proposition so that they can see the benefits. I will share 2 examples later. And design need consent forms. Be very open of how you will be using data, and about, for instance, that you govern the data, and that people can always withdraw their permission at any time. And maintain trust, of course, through strong data governance. Governance was maybe in the past a bit of a boring subject. It was for somebody hidden in a corner in the IT department. That's the pastime. Data governance is an asset, is a company asset, and it's not boring anymore at all.
Yeah, Jan, I have a comment on that. If you allow me to interrupt you, that's something that's really important. I think on this slide is the fact that the 3 points needs to be together, because sometimes we see more and more often we see the digital consent form is that people or company marketer explaining, oh, we'll do XYZ with your data, we want all of that, and we'll send the happy birthday email. And the issue with that, to me, is that it's not tied to the value proposition. And so the as you said, the exchange between the data and what the consumer will get is not balanced. So either it's hidden, please give me all your data, and you don't know what you'll get. And that's an issue, because you can be clear on what you want to collect, but you don't say what it will be for. And if you don't communicate this value proposition, or you do communicate this value proposition, it needs to be balanced. And today, I feel like we are still in an era of people collecting data, so and more explaining. So having your point 2 more and more used, but missing the first. So that's really something.
And if you don't, I completely agree. And if you don't have a clear value proposition, then you should really think, what business am I in? Why should people share their data with me? So a clear value proposition is of course essential, also as part of the existence of your organization.
Yeah, totally. That's really I mean, so important for everyone to understand that it needs to be all together and not just one of the. That's not a check the box. That just it needs to be tied together as an action for the company and not just one team.
Yeah. Well, let me share you two examples. One, as I said in the introduction, the DDMA has several awards, and one is the Customer Data Award. And the Customer Data Award is an award for a company that has made great progress in data-driven marketing as a whole. So data collection, decisioning, activation, and applying privacy and security by design and by default, including ROI on the total investment. One of the winners is a Dutch company, Dutch-based company. They're also active in the Netherlands and I think also in France and some other countries. And it's an omni-channel retailer. They started as a bricks and mortar retailer, and now they also have a website and an app. I'm not sure, but I think that's about 18 or 20% of their turnover, and they have hundreds of big stores. What they do, what we really like about them, they are very clear about the value that they offer. For instance, if you install their app, and I've made some screenshots of the app. This is in Dutch, apologize, but of course I will translate the highlights. So they have a loyalty program, and that's called Meer HEMA, so more HEMA, and HEMA is the name of that company. And they say if you participate to Meer HEMA, you will get a lot of nice advantages. So you get extra, you can save points for extra discounts, special offers. You get a free like cake. They have like a signature cake, HEMA, that's called the tompoes. And on your birthday, you get a push message, and then you can collect your cake. And if you register, you get 10% discount on the first purchase. And then they explain how in detail how the collecting perks, so points, how that works, and how you can how you can change these perks, convert these perks into vouchers. So this is a bit more detail. And then they also say, for instance, they also resell insurance, health insurances. They are not in the health insurance business, but that's a private label from HEMA. They also share that quite successfully. So, and also if you register at HEMA, you give consent to collect the data, you get an extra discount on that health insurance. So that's what they do. But why do they do it? Why do they do this? They do it in order to understand their customers. If they log in, if they've ordered in the email and the app, and I forgot to add an image here, that's of course the point of sale. So like 85% of their revenue is in store. And if people show their pass or their loyalty app on their mobile, then they see that the customer also bought in the store and what they bought. So online, it's very visible, of course, if people give consent, but they're in the dark for offline. So that's why most of the retailers are very keen on loyalty apps. That's in order to understand the customer. For instance, if you apply modeling, like propensity modeling, and you only have 15%, let's say only the online transactions in your database, in your data warehouse to apply modeling, then you miss 85% of the customer interaction. So the modeling isn't working properly. So that's also a reason why this is very important. And then maybe if you're working for a smaller company, you might think, well, I'm not a big retailer. How should I do that? I only sell, for instance, like socks, or I sell caps or makeup. How can I do that? I've got a nice, a great example of an American company. And it's about a company, and their core business is in probiotics. And probiotics are meant for your intestines and to keep them healthy. And because intestines are I won't detail on that. You can Google it, what probiotics is and what it can do for you if you would be interested. So this was a small company. It was a startup, and they were thinking, how do we stand out from the crowd? You can buy probiotics of many labels and many stores. How do we stand out with our unique product? Because they are opinion that they have a unique product. So what they did when they started in the first 3 years, they're not doing this anymore. They collected data with trust and value exchange. But how do they do it? What's really, and this is not a joke. They made people make pictures of their poop. And it's serious. And they do that because if you make pictures of their poop, you can train the algorithm. So you say what kind of complaints you have, if you should have problems. You make pictures of your poop, and you upload that, and the algorithm learns from that. So that is one of the ways they positioned themselves as a high-end probiotics supplier that is contributing to society, to the well-being of society. So they made people make pictures of their poop, but they explained, of course, how that works. And these pictures, for instance, they say that it's not about you or me. It's about contributing. So the pictures of these poo, they were anonymized, so they only take the complaints for issues and the image, and that's being uploaded, and that's not about you or me. And they explain that. And the training of that algorithm, the algorithm is called Orgy, and then they explain your poop is data. And then there's a drop-down menu and that explains in detail what is AI, how will the model be trained, can I do this more than once? Anything you want to know, that's in that app. And also who is behind it. So what I want to say is, even for a small company, if you explain it clearly in a unique way, so with a value, then people are more willing to register and share data. Of course, the data of their poo is anonymized, but of course, if you have like a subscription on a product, that's not anonymized. So even for smaller companies, this can be a way to collect data and to distinguish yourself with a proper value exchange, and of course collect first-party data. But it's not only problems when collecting data. You know that the Digital Market Act is coming, and one of the elements in the new Digital Market Act is that like resellers of the platforms like Booking, Amazon, and Marktplaats. That's the Dutch version of eBay. It was formerly owned by eBay. They should share data to companies that resell their products on their platforms. Aggregated data, and it still has to be detailed what type of data. And that's to give the resellers on these platforms more insights into what's happening on these platforms with these end users. So that's also some good news. But then, use cases. Once you started collecting data in a proper way, how do you monetize on the consented data? So there are many different ideas throughout the company. This can be ideas from the BI department, controlling, performance marketing, CRM, can be any idea. So there are many ideas that can be grouped into your maturity. But the issue is if you have like 20 people involved, or maybe with bigger companies, much more, how do you select the best use case? That can be a challenge, but maybe it's not such a challenge if you do it in a very basic way. And if you ask me, that's always working. It works like this. It could work like this. You could divide your audience, the people working at your company, for instance, in 2 or 3 groups, 2 or 3 groups of 5 to 6 people each, and each group shares their idea, their use case, what they would like to accomplish, like a use story. As a BI manager, I would like to have a dashboarding on the total set of data, or as a performance marketeer, I would like to include a profit margin to the smart bidding algorithm of an advertising platform, for instance. So every group in 1 or 2 hours writes down that these ideas, and then these ideas are being presented to the total group by one of the people who was in the group. And you could plot these ideas, for instance, on 2 axes. One is the value, high value, low value, and the other X is low effort and high effort. And then the total group says, and that's like a group hygiene, and they say, okay, this idea of, let's say, Benoît, we think it's high value, and it shouldn't, maybe it's probably not such a high effort. Then you have like these ideas plotted in these quadrants. That's how you could start. Then these ideas they are all being put on the marketing backlog. But what you could do is start with these ideas by refining them and by detailing what will we be accomplishing. Do we have the data? If there is there consent, what will be the value? So like a high level business case. So you make like a high level business case that's a bit more detailed. And then together with the management, you could select, for instance, 2 or 3 of these, how many are they? Are 8 ideas to maybe develop in a proof of concept and make a minimal viable product. So you detail it a bit more. This is a screenshot in Jira with all these epics, tasks, and user stories. And then what you could do is then you have these 3 ideas, and then what you could do, you don't want to change your total marketing technology stack. And let me share an example. This is of another retailer, omnichannel retailer, and they had 3 ideas that they wanted to develop. One was propensity modeling, in this case by Tinyclues. Another one was improving smart bidding, and the other one was conversion modeling. So what they did, is they were using Salesforce, but they hadn't combined Salesforce with GA. Quite basic, you should have done that before, but okay, no problem. So what happened? The data was being loaded into a central point of truth, in this case also in Google Cloud, but it can also be applied in another cloud. So all the data was being loaded and transformed to be able to apply to deliver the 3 use cases in the POC. So this is like a data lake functionality. This is an analytical data store, also called data warehouse. And then, so in this case, Tinyclues was built on top of the combination of the Salesforce data. That was mostly like the CRM data and the website data. And then Salesforce and then Tinyclues could learn from the total set of the data. That was one element. And also the other 2 use cases, like smart bidding in Google Ads and conversion modeling, they were all in on the same set of data. So this company didn't change their stack here, Salesforce. This was not a complicated stack. Most companies are using much more different systems. And then in, let's say, 8 to 12 weeks, you have developed a POC, and for instance, with a window of the POC of 1 or 3 months to see if it's working. So don't change. You can use public cloud technology at low cost to experiment on the use cases that resulted in the process that I just shared. So and you can apply Agile Scrum to be agile in control when you develop this. That's very important to apply Scrum. But then you have several use cases developed, or you are busy developing all these use cases on the backlog. But then what happens sometimes if that companies aren't able to execute, they don't have the content in place, so the content management or the product management in place. They will be applying many algorithms, but algorithms only work properly if the data quality is okay and being loaded. So the ability to execute, that means that you will have to work with all these different personas and roles within a company in an agile way. That you apply controls, like statistical controls on the data, if the data is being loaded properly, or maybe half, are there 0 values in the tables, for instance, and that you also have a culture where you can experiment. And where you can fail fast without judging people. So the ability to execute is very important. And what we found out is that people of companies who can apply this, the customer, the employee satisfaction is much higher because they team up. They are delivering fast controls. They can experiment. Sort of fun and result factor is growing rapidly. I see that it's already quite late, so let me step up a bit. You can read this later. You can read that later. So one of the ways you can apply you can boost your ability to execute is by applying marketing ops, and that joins people, process, and technology in a scalable, flexible, and governed way. And that's derived from software development, and that's also that people who develop the software, they also are responsible for maintaining the software. And that's the same with marketing. You shouldn't think in projects, but about continuous delivery of governed marketing products. That means that you apply elements of automation, systems, data, analytics, and of course governance, privacy and security, and checking on the data. For instance, that you combine these elements in your workflow, in the way you work, and then you grow your ability to execute with it. Because if you only have like a good customer data platform in place and a lot of data products, but if you can't execute on all these decisions, then you still can't operate properly. And this is a different way to look at it. So it's people, so several roles. It can be these are just examples of roles. Can be also be other types of roles. And marketing ops is in the center where it all overlaps. And depending on how big a marketing ops team is, if you have like a big, small, or very small teams, this is like an average team for a smaller company, then you have these roles in there. For instance, a data specialist, like a data engineer who can also check on the data flows, the transformations, a marketing technology specialist who also looks at the integrations, the total processes. There are many processes in place, including shipment, etc., and the demand generation specialist. So these are the roles that could be included in a marketing ops team. So yeah, what I shared today with you is, I hope a practical way how to develop marketing products in a privacy safe way. And I'm very curious about your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jan, first of all. And that's time. And we still have like 2-3 minutes to answer a question. If you have questions, don't hesitate to use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen and ask your question. Meanwhile, waiting to see if there are some questions. There is something that's, I mean, you shared you shared a lot of examples and very interesting outcome or takeaway from the strategy perspective of building having a data strategy is really important. But one thing that I think is the one outcome from what you said and what we don't see enough, or what we see too often, is the fact that even if you have a walled garden tool or stack like Salesforce or Adobe or other tool, I mean, as a marketing team, please don't think that you can't do anything else but the feature they are providing. That's what you share. That the fact that you can have something that is providing a lot of features, and you want to provide a little bit more to your customer, a better customer experience by providing one additional action, and you can include that. So long story short, the short way of saying that is that the marketing stack is not a one size fits all. That's a composable stack. The CDP should be really agile, and that's testing, as you said, testing new practices, adding new bricks, seeing the results, maybe removing some, adding others. Yeah, that's a living stack. You need in a digital world like this, you need to be in a living stack and making it progress and change over time. And these time cycles are not every 3 years. That can change really way faster. And I think that's one really important takeaway for people to keep in mind, that they are not forced to live with what they have and stuck with it. They can make that evolve.
Yeah. So some of these suites, they offer quite a lot, but not everything, especially if you grow in your maturity, for instance.
Yeah.
And also, so what we advise in most cases is create underneath these suites or composable stacks a central data and decisions layer, and that also limits or reduces the lock-in of all these vendors. And it could also very much reduce your license cost.
Yeah.
For certain, depending on the type of deal that you have. So one of the best practices is create a central place where you collect and manage all your data, including the consent that could come from maybe like 6-7 systems. Manage that also in a central place.
Yeah.
And then if you would like to change or want to experiment with Tinyclues as an example, you don't have to migrate the data because from like a marketing automation tool or a website, because the data is already in a central place. Just connect with Tinyclues and you have like a POC up and running in 4 weeks. And that makes you flexible, scalable, and that also is part of the fail fast culture, that you can experiment with best of breed solutions like Tinyclues or whatever tool you would like to experiment with.